And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Bale, who writes, "Greetings, John and Erin. I got to go to my local AMC yesterday to see Godzilla vs. Kong and had such a great time. The story was meh." That's fair. That's fair. The story was meh, but it was exactly what I needed as my first time back in the theaters in over a year. Wondering if you saw that it broke the box office record for the pandemic era with $9.8 million opening day, beating out Wonder Woman 84. You speculated it could make 30 to 40 million by the end of its opening weekend. Do you think that's easy now? Could it make more? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, I did go to see Godzilla vs. Kong in the theaters. What a glorious experience it was. I had so much fun. You guys probably saw that I put up my quick out of theater review for that. Basic in a nutshell, the human stuff is the weakest, especially the Team Godzilla human stuff. The Team Kong human stuff was more relevant to the movie, but still, what we really wanted to see was Godzilla and Kong. Godzilla fighting Kong, Godzilla fighting other things, Kong fighting other things, all this kind of stuff. Who knew that we want, well, no, I'm not going to give away a spoiler. Anyway.
You better not.
No spoilers for me. No spoilers for me. But I just had a lot of fun, man. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. Well, apparently a lot of people wanted to go see this thing as, yes, the numbers have come in. It's opening day. Godzilla vs. Kong made 9.6. I think you might have said 9.8 in the email, but $9.6 million on its opening day, which beats the previous opening day record during the pandemic era of Wonder Woman 84, which made about 7-something million on its opening day. Now, we have been speculating here that we think by the end of its first weekend, Godzilla could make 30 to 40 million dollars in that thing, which would again be an easy record for the pandemic era and all that kind of stuff. But that 30 to 40 million dollars becomes even more impressive, like really impressive, when you consider the following, that those numbers during this era right now. Let's look back and compare. Now, we talked a little bit about this before, but let's look back and compare this for a second. Let's jump into the Campea classroom for a second. So if Godzilla vs. Kong can manage 30 to 40 million, and with a 9.8 opening day on a Wednesday, it seems pretty reasonable. It might be able to hit those numbers, which would be insane if it does, 30 to 40 million. But keep this in mind. Godzilla King of the Monsters, the last monster movie, made $47 million opening weekend. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, $47 million was not in a pandemic. So Godzilla King of the Monsters made in the 40s without a pandemic. Also, Godzilla King of the Monsters did it without limited theaters. And by limited theaters, I mean limited capacity theaters. Mm-hmm. So Godzilla vs. Kong has a pandemic going on. Still a lot of people nervous about going to the theaters. They have limited capacity and all that kind of stuff. And here's the third one. Free viewings on HBO Max. So Godzilla King of the Monsters, King of the Monsters, the last movie, didn't give people the option to just stay at home and watch it at home. It didn't have a pandemic to deal with. It didn't have limited theater capacity to deal with. Godzilla vs. Kong does have all those challenges. A lot of people who are interested in watching are just sitting at home to watch it. Some people are just too nervous to go out in theaters because of the pandemic. And some people, I know in LA at least, I don't know about other places around the country, but in LA, a lot of people were having trouble finding tickets to see Godzilla vs. Kong because all the theaters were selling out because of limited capacity and what have you. When you consider that Godzilla vs. Kong could end up in the same neighborhood of a box office result as the last Godzilla movie, with all of these challenges, it just puts into context how impressive of a number this really would be. I also think it ends the discussion, is because let's face it, I have a lot of fun with Godzilla King of the Monsters, all right? I do. The Godfather, it is not, okay? The story is weak. Meh. Yeah, the story is meh. At best, the story is meh. Half of the characters served real no practical function. I adore Millie Bobby Brown. Her character did not need to be in this movie whatsoever. That's not a critique on her. It's just that the character didn't need to be there whatsoever. But all that kind of stuff. And yet people were flocking out to go see this thing. I think it bodes very well, considering this wasn't a new Justice League. This wasn't a new Avengers movie. This wasn't, the next Captain America film. This wasn't the next James Bond. It was Godzilla versus Kong. I think this bodes very well. I think these are terrific numbers. And when you put it in context to the last film, I think it's really impressive. Aaron, you hear about this thing making about $10 million just on its first Wednesday, which is comparable to what these monsters movies were doing pre-pandemic. How significant is this, or am I overplaying it a little bit? How do you see it?
Well, not to play devil's advocate, and thank you for the Campea classroom. Erin Cummings' class is now in session. Let's talk about a few things. Number one, yes, we are in a pandemic, but number two, a significant number of people have at least received their first vaccination shot.
Yes.
So there is a lot more optimism, a lot more confidence. People are feeling a lot better about going out into public spaces. And part of that is, I will give credit where credit is due to the incredible lengths that the theaters have gone to ensure the safety of their patrons.
Right.
As you said, limited capacity. So that's number one, is that yes, we are technically still in a pandemic. Wear your masks, get vaccinated, social distance, do all those things that you should be doing. But because of vaccination rates and the wonderful lengths that the theaters are going to, people are feeling more confident about going out in public. That's number one. Number two, while there is limited capacity, there's also limited competition. I don't know what else was going on when Godzilla King of the Monsters came out, but we probably had a lot of things to choose from, So when you go to In-N-Out Burger, you're probably going to there's a really good chance you're going to get a double-double, because there's not a lot of other options on the menu unless you know about the secret menu. Whereas when you go to the Cheesecake Factory, you might not get a hamburger because there's 5,000 things on that menu that is the size of a phone book. So we have limited competition right now. There's really only one movie to see in theaters. So that's another aspect of it. And then also, I don't necessarily think that the United States per se, and I could be wrong on this, I have been wrong once or twice in my life before. I don't think that the United States is as ravenous for Godzilla as we are for Kong. We love King Kong. I mean, King Kong, Fay Ray, like he is a beloved figure. And Godzilla is a badass. This is no disrespect to Godzilla, but I think that the idea of a Godzilla movie on its own is never going to do as well as a Godzilla with our beloved King Kong. In the same, not totally unlike an Alien versus Predator, but in a different way. Yeah, I got to work that out in my head. But I do think that if this were just a Godzilla movie, I don't know if it would be doing as well. The addition of King Kong and having those two powerhouses going at it together makes a big difference. And my third piece of information to add to this is the fact that this isn't a movie that people who love action films want to see in theaters. If this were The Godfather, or if this were, say, The Pianist, people might want to sit at home where they're not going to be distracted by people talking or whatever. This is a movie, like, I would never in a million years want to see this movie for the first time in my living room.
Right.
Why? Because Tom would be like, oh my God, do that. We're going to watch it in 30-minute segments, as we've been talking about earlier. This is a movie that I want to go into the theater. I want to be scared out of my mind. I want to scream. I want to yelp. I want other people to scream. I want people cheering. I want this theater to be rocking and rolling with the 5 people sporadically spread out. But remember when we went and saw you rented the theater, the AMC
Indiana
theater.
Jones and the
We went and
Last
saw Indiana
Crusade.
Jones. And the trailer for this came out. I was freaking out. I was screaming. I was jumping up and down in my seat because it's so exciting. This is a movie that people want to see in the theaters, and I think this is a great movie to get people back into theaters.
Yes.
So I do think, and because also, and I'm going to call you out on this, you can't put an asterisk on the Oscars if you're not going to put an asterisk on the box office.
Oh, you absolutely have to put asterisks on the box office. 1,000%
Okay.
you have to.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
On every level, from Tenet to Wonder Woman to Godzilla, you have to have thousands of asterisks.
Right, but so here's my question. Right now, if I wanted to go to the movies and I wanted to see what movies there were to choose from, besides Godzilla versus Kong, what are my options right now, this weekend?
You know what? Let's look. Let's open up AMC, because I mean, I know AMC was packed. Hold a second. Let's go over here. So AMC theaters, here's what's playing in there right now. Because you're right, the competition is, why is AMC theaters not opening back up? Here we go. So playing now at AMC theaters, you have Raya and the Last Dragon. You have The Croods, New Age. You have the Tom and Jerry movie. You have the new film, The Courier. You have Chaos Walking. That's the Ridley. I keep wanting to say Ridley Scott when I'm trying to say Daisy Ridley. Oh. The Daisy Ridley Tom Holland film. That you have Godzilla versus Kong. You have Nobody, which is awesome, by the way.
Oh, I want to see that.
You and Tom got to go see Nobody.
I think we might see that this weekend.
I think so fun.
In fact, we might do a double feature and see Nobody and Godzilla versus Kong with a bathroom break in between, of course.
So you got Minari, which is out there too. The new Liam Neeson one, The Marksman. So I mean, this is not. I mean, the theaters aren't empty, but this is not your typical competition for a weekend like that. So like there are so many asterisks, from limited competition to the fact that it is playing on HBO Max, to the fact that despite the fact that we're coming out of it and we're seeing positive signs, theaters are reopening, all that kind of stuff, there's still limited capacity. There's still people afraid to go to the movies.
Well, and also when Wonder Woman 84 came out, were the New York and LA markets even open at that point?
No, they were not.
Well, then there you go. That's another thing. I mean, the two biggest markets in the country, that's a big deal as well.
So there are, like I said, there are a lot of asterisks on both ways. The ultimate thing, though, here to me is this. When the New York theaters open back up, when the LA theaters open back up, as we saw, at least in California, there are other states struggling a little bit more. But when in California, we saw the new cases numbers drop. Now something like this, for a not super successful franchise, because Godzilla, hey, I like Skull Island. But I mean, the reality is this monster franchise has not been the biggest box office blockbuster films out there. It's just yet another positive sign to me of things going in the right direction. And so seeing these types of numbers, I think is exceptional. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this, about Godzilla versus Kong? If it can actually come in close to another movie that had none of the challenges that these ones are, given where we're at in time. What do you think about these numbers? Jump on down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.